Yo, what's up, everybody? Got the legend BJ Daniels on. Appreciate you joining me. But before we get into any introductions and shoot the shit, have a conversation, always kick things off with a wild, funny story. BJ, what do you have for everybody?
I don't know how wild it is. I just thought it was always very funny.
Yeah,
In 2009, I was at the University of South Florida and I played. We were getting ready for a game, and we have this uh, kicker on our team named Delbert Alvarado, and he was more of like our team kind of like chaplain. Like he was very upstanding guy. A lot
yeah,
of respect for him. Somebody we always wanted to, we respected. So he would always do like praying before the games, get everybody in the shower stalls and huddle up, with our uniforms on.
yeah,
And he would pray for us, and he would do that. He would do it after the game when it was over. He would lead the prayer, and just one game that he was struggling a little bit, and I remember we ended up, Delbert praying, as what we do, win or
yeah,
lose. And Coach Levitt, Jim Levitt, he kind of put his hand in the air and he's like, Delbert, hold on, wait a minute. And we all looked at our coach and we were like, what's going on? He said, if praying, you're gonna be for the Lord, you got to make kicks. And all kind of like looked at each other and some people laughed, and it was just the most awkward environment in the
yeah,
world
yeah,
because
yeah,
we just lost. He told Delbert, like, look, you're praying a lot, but are you praying to make kicks too?
yeah.
So it was something I'll never forget.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, cool, man. Yeah, let's dive in. I know, like I said, before we jumped on, just kind of following you and kind of keeping up with your journey as of recently here a little bit saw you had like either a book out or book coming out. I guess tell us a little bit about that. And yeah, let's just dive into the weeds of like how that came about, what the book's about, and
Mhm.
kind of what your inspiration was, what pulled you to write that.
Yeah. I think about 3 or 4 years ago, I told myself I want to write a book. I like talking to kids, I like motivating them, and the way I do that is I'm just honest. I tell them my story, the
Yeah.
things I struggle with, the things I went through, how to overcome. And because when people first meet me, they always talk about, we beat Florida State as a freshman, or you won the Super Bowl, you played in the NFL, and it didn't just go like that.
Right.
This road was up and down, and I think 3 years ago I said I wanted to do it. Never really sat down and had the time to do it. But I ended up signing with this company called Trigger Hub, which is a mental health publishing company. And I met this guy named Adam Shaw about a year ago, and ever since then, man, it's been a blessing for him to come into my life, for me to have the opportunity, the platform, and to really just share my story and really, you know, I think now I'm actually ready for a book.
Yeah.
I think before it wouldn't have been as dynamic as it is now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's go down that. I'm always interested. One of the things like I'm super fascinated with is like as people get into coaching, mentorship, motivating, whether it's kids or, college athletes or professional athletes,
Right.
is when people talk about their backstory, was your backstory more along the lines of like pain or pleasure? And what I mean by that is like when I was a college athlete, like now working with college teams is like I experienced so much pain as a college athlete of like sadness, loneliness, confusion, depression. It's like I never want those kids to feel that way again. So it's like
Absolutely.
that's what pulled me towards that. Versus some people it's more of a pleasure. They had a fantastic experience, right? And it's like I want to show everybody that they can feel like I felt too. And so it's like
Right.
one way is not right or wrong. So I'm curious of like I guess give us a little sneak peek, so to speak, or just tell us kind of your backstory of like, was it more on the pain or the pleasure side, and kind of like, like how you utilize that to motivate kids, motivate your athletes now.
To be honest with you, like there's been a lot of self accountability in this book and reflection. For me, I can say no one moment of my life or level that I've been on as an athlete was always roses and just
Right.
the most beautiful experience I can ever say. But through each one of those levels, I was able to push through and fight and continue to move forward, regardless of what my situation or circumstance was, because I just never was the guy that you could tell no to.
Right.
You could not just say something to me and I just go with it. If you tell me the stove is hot, I'm still going to touch it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And because I want to know how hot that stove is. So I mean, for me, I grew up in a dorm room on Florida State's football camp on the campus of Florida State. I grew up watching Charlie Ward and Derek Brooks. So, and when I say dorm room, people kind of get they skim over it pretty fast. No, I could literally until I was 6. Grew up on the first floor of a dormitory called Smith Hall. There were 20 floors above me, which was all college students. Every Saturday, I would hear the Doak Campbell Stadium where Florida State played and Charlie Ward and Derek Brooks. I would hear them every weekend. And I wanted to be like those guys.
Yeah.
My earliest memory of just trying to of doing it my way was when I had a very small fire truck and my parents. I'm seeing all these college kids fly around on skateboards, and my parents wouldn't buy me a skateboard. So essentially, on the top of the hill in front of our house, I put the fire truck down and I stood on top of the fire truck, scraped my entire face. But
Yeah.
from there, it's all that's where it started for me. And it's always been, you're too short, you're not good enough. We don't, there's been colleges that said, we don't want you to play quarterback. You can't play quarterback. You won't make it to the next level or the NFL. And those things have always motivated me to succeed and to make it. So per se, but at the end of the day, my whole story and backdrop of this book is really to talk about all those moments where um, I hit a wall and or I ran into I had to be resilient and just to get to where I wanted to get to. So in the book, I mentioned things of I've had family diagnosed with cancer and died. I've had my little sister
Mm.
diagnosed with cancer. I've been held down at gunpoint. Um, there are things that have happened along the way, mistreated or unfairly or whatever, but I still wanted to accomplish these things. And I did not know that all of the things that I've accumulated or accomplished, it wasn't for me. It's
Right.
for me to take those experiences and then use them to help someone else. So my dream did not fully come into fruition, but I experienced some things that will help other people.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So do you feel like, actually, let me ask you this first, is because you mentioned the book actually, you know, being a part of like a mental health publishing company, was that an accident? Was that intended? Did you intend the book to like be directed? Because I'm assuming that's what the book is kind of directed more towards, is um probably more towards that than like the personal development side, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like what I guess like what kind of pulled you more into that direction than, just a generic personal development growth style book?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, one thing we always joke about as athletes is everybody has a story.
Right, right,
Everybody,
right. Yeah,
but the thing I think for me is, with everyone having a story, how vulnerable and how honest and how real can we all be about our experiences? And that's something that's not it's rare. And I'm finding that I don't have any type of bitterness, which a lot of athletes have. I don't have any type of negativity towards any particular coach. I don't, hate an organization.
right.
I'm in a space where my reflective stage is allowing me to be honest and say, maybe I didn't study the players as hard as I should have.
Mm,
Maybe I didn't wake up at 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. or I didn't understand quite what hard work meant or what it was. Along with dealing with what life presents you, how am I handling those things mentally? Because one thing I've said many a times before is that we go through all these things in life, but then we're also faced with how do we perform in practice? And we're still thinking about or dealing with these things, or how do we handle after practice when we could be getting treatment or watching film and doing all these things, but we're still dealing with what's going on at home or what's going on in my head or what's going on in my relationship. So
hmm
those are still at the balance along with being a superhero. So it's like, I think for me, I'm just now vulnerable enough to talk about what I've experienced and how I felt in each moment.
Right.
Because if I tell you I dreamed about playing for Florida State, um, and they told me I was too short, no, we don't want you. Tell you very easily that when we went to Tallahassee to play against Florida State, I could be a nervous wreck mentally because I want to prove something to them and I
Yeah.
want them to feel the pain of not, recruiting me and anger and all that kind of stuff. Well, I didn't have that. I was pretty much at peace, which is rare. But at the
Totally.
same time, you know, let's say a couple weeks after, I throw 4 interceptions on national TV against Rutgers. So I went from the most popular kid on campus as a freshman to, this kid's on national TV throwing picks. I don't even want to walk in the cafeteria to go eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like there's things I think that need to be talked about, especially on the family side of things in life, because I mean we all know athletics doesn't last that long. So how
Right.
do we manage and move forward with the traumas and the things we face because it will trickle over into our relationships.
Yeah.
I remember having a girlfriend, and if I had a bad day in football, then me and her had a bad day. It's just how that went.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think too is, I guess two parts is, do you find in still being around, athletics and sports and athletes in general, do you find that there's still that bitterness? I totally agree. And I think it's real prevalent in football, especially too,
Yeah,
is, especially college of, oh, my coach,
right.
they didn't like me, right? Like whatever the thing is, and then even at the professional level too is, and I love that what you said. I guess two-part question is one, do you still see that bitterness or that anger or that fresh or resentment's probably a good word too. Um, and then B is I love what you said, and I love you to touch on is you took a step back and I just call it like the window versus the mirror. Instead of looking out the window and pointing the finger at everybody, it's like I got to hold up the
Right.
mirror first and be like, okay, like, was I actually as committed as I say I am? Because I think
Mm.
most people assume they're like, are you a hard worker? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay, but like compared to who or compared to
Right.
what? It's like
Yeah,
how hard of a worker you are. That's the real question. It's not are you or aren't you? It's not like this absolute, it's not black and white in the sense of it's just two ends of the spectrum. There's a gray scale in there too
absolutely.
of like on a scale of 1 to 10, are you a 4? Are you a 6?
Right.
So yeah, I'm curious is do you still see that resentment, that bitterness? And then, what allowed you to take a step back and really measure, maybe I was a 7 when I thought I was a 10 in terms of commitment, like when I was an athlete.
Yeah. I think growing up, everyone has, as a young child, whatever sport or ball or bat or whatever was placed into your hands, whatever you fell in love with, whoever you wanted to emulate, become, or be, or watch on TV, like you have those hopes and dreams of being exactly that.
Right.
And a lot of us don't know necessarily what it takes to get to be that. You know,
Yeah.
we want to be it, but we don't know what it takes to get there. Frame of reference sometimes is a small town. Sometimes it's our parents are. So we're just trying to figure it out by leaning on any type of anything that we can. A coach in high school or a coach in middle
Hmm.
school or a mentor or uncle or a friend. Um, but do they really know as well? Are they the guys or the men and have, made it to the peak and know here's the blueprint. Here's how you
Yeah.
do it. It's a guessing game. It also is, so when you talk about resentment, I can tell you I see it all the time. All the time. And it always starts off like you said, oh, that coach. Well, what did that coach do? Did that coach discourage you? Okay, well, that's on you. He discouraged you. He stopped you from
Mm.
uh doing what you want to do in that fire and desire. I've run into coaches who I felt like didn't like me.
Right.
Okay. Well, I've had to figure out a way to either A, make them like me or B, make them respect me.
Mm.
If we didn't correlate in a personality way, I also made sure that I was his best player because I was the fastest or quickest, but I was going to be on time. I was going to be there before everybody. I was going to stay after everybody left. If I had a coach that always asked me tough questions. And I always felt like he was embarrassing me in front of other people. Okay, I take offense to that, or I go home and I'd say, you know what, I'm gonna study. So next time he asks me a question, I'm gonna
Yeah.
answer. And however deep he wants to go in this. Oh man, I got him with the first answer, but I didn't get him with the second answer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep working. And yet in turn, what does that do? That makes me a smarter player,
Yeah.
you know? So and at the end of the day, I've always that, you know, people talk about opportunities.
Hmm.
Sometimes you can still have that and not get a chance. Okay. Well, I've always felt like I had this fire within me that I would mentally, mentally only threaten a coach.
Yeah.
And that is, you better not play me. Because if you play me, I'm gonna do something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do something because you've pushed me to the limit that I mentally know what I'm talking about and I know the game. I physically have done everything I'm supposed to do on time and what I'm supposed to be. You play me, you're gonna cause yourself some trouble.
Right.
Okay. Because I'm out here and perform, and I might perform better than the person you like.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so so that was always like my fire and passion behind it. So I'll never blame a coach. I will never. I will tell you which ones I like and which ones I don't, but I will
Yeah.
never.
Yeah. Yeah.
I won't blame them. And about working hard, I say this. Really quickly. Um, I found out in the NFL by being around other professionals what hard work
Mm.
was. If I would have learned or gotten that blueprint earlier on in my career, who knows where I would have been. But I didn't have those necessarily models in front of me
Yeah.
to show me what hard work really looks like.
Yeah.
I think about the Kobe Bryant when they were in the USA, basketball documentary, when LeBron and what was it, Dwayne Wade and Carmelo all had a choice to make, and they looked at Carmelo didn't do it, but LeBron did, Dwayne Wade did, and that was their model. And I
Yeah.
think that's what helps them be successful now. But you also talking about LeBron being a high school kid. Who else was working or had his ability?
Right. Right. Right.
It wasn't until he got there that I think he really transformed into always a great player. But where he is now, I mean, he still works hard. He still
Yeah.
does, so yeah,
Well,
they've had good examples.
and I think too is go like using that documentary as like a reference to is I remember him saying to something along the lines of like we thought we understood Kobe, right? Like we thought we knew like how hard he worked. And then they were like,
Yeah,
then we saw it in person and was like, holy shit, right?
yeah,
Like there was this like, whoa, all right, this is a
yeah.
whole different level. And I think it goes back to kind of like the how hard or how committed actually are you do have to find somebody to be around that you like you
Mm,
think you know but like when you really get there like and experience it in person it's like dude like it's a whole different stratosphere of
yeah,
like understanding
absolutely,
things of like putting yourself in the environment right and I think that's where a lot
absolutely,
of people confuse is like they think they know right
right.
like well it's it goes back to the human being side of whether you're talking about a college athlete or a professional athlete is people want to assume
Mm,
people want to assume that they know how they would act in those situations, right? I've been around
right.
people with
Yeah,
tens of millions of dollars and people have told me like they're watch them rent a private jet, right? Or whatever, right? And they're just like, well,
yeah,
that's dumb. They blow up. I'm like, but like, have you ever had $50 million in the bank account? Because I don't think you have, right? Like you can't say what you would do because your bank
absolutely.
account says like 10 grand. Theirs says like 10 million. That is
Right.
two different worlds. So to try to say that you would know,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
absolutely.
it's it's a different world and it's tough to get people and even college, like you said, it's like one week you're somebody's best friend and then like just because you don't play as well and it's like I literally
Mhm.
had that conversation with the team as freshmen coming in and they're like starting to perform at a high level. I'm like
Right.
the status is going to be great but remember like the four people that were around you when you had nothing because they're going to
Absolutely.
be because when the status drops and it probably will at some point it's
Yep.
like you're going to need those people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're on point. You are on point.
Did you experience that as well from college to pro?
Yeah. I mean, obviously I got way more followers. I got more DMs and girls talking to me. I got a whole bunch of stuff from college to NFL. But it's so funny that, you know, for me, 4-year starter at USF, and then dreams and goals, aspirations, breaking up every record here, uh, going to the NFL. Okay, well, my senior year, I got all this attention and I break my ankle. So I broke my ankle and missed the last 3 games of my senior season.
Mm,
So, um, you know, breaking my ankle put me in a position where I'm crying and I'm like, from the age of 6 to 23, I had this goal, these dreams, and right before I get to the doorstep, right when I'm right there ready to pull the knob and open the door and walk to that next level, I break my ankle and I'm like, okay, well, my dreams and goals are done.
yeah.
There is no NFL. There is no next level. That football will not be a part of my future. And that happens for everybody. It's just a matter of when it happens. And um, I remember, you know, kind of just laying in my apartment, with a broken foot and not getting invited to any type of senior bowl or the combine or anything like that. And I'm like, oh, this is it,
Yeah.
and so it went from all these people to 3 or 4 people
Yeah.
to, girlfriend struggles,
Yeah.
to family. And then, uh, then I get drafted next April.
Everybody's back.
Everybody's back and some,
Yeah, 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 right. Yeah.
and it's crazy how that stuff happens. It really is.
And it's easy to get sucked into because we all like status. I mean, that's just human nature, right? Like we
Yeah.
like as a human being, we love to feel loved. Like it just is.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
it's hard to like keep those, even those that you know shouldn't be as close to you as they are, to keep them at a distance because it's like we're naturally, and I believe most people are naturally like inherently good people too. And so it's hard for like most of us at some level are kind of like people pleasers, so to speak. And
Yeah.
so it's hard for us to say no. It's like, dude, you've known that guy for like 3 weeks. Like, why would you give him money? And it's like, but
Right.
like they're a good person, right? And it's like I think we're
Yeah.
a lot of times wired to just give our shirts off our back without ever even like
Absolutely.
having to question or think about it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
one of the words you used in the video is like calling, right? And so I think after sports, so to speak, or when you kind of knew like, football was winding down, is, what did you at that time like feel like your calling was like post athletics? And like, has that developed into like new things and new roles? And, yeah, I guess kind of what you got going on now.
Yeah. So I'll date back to 2020, the dreaded COVID year, that everybody wants to forget.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, I so 2020 is when things for me kind of were shifting and I could feel it. And I was starting to kind of just remove myself just from the game and do what I could do to help people.
yeah. Yep.
So 2020, I played in the XFL, and I was the backup quarterback to a gentleman named Brandon Silvers. Brandon Silvers, they drafted him first. This gentleman just graduated from Troy University, so he had never played in the NFL, never had any type of experience that I had. And I had already been to 3 Super Bowls. I had played in the NFL for 6 years already. I backed up Colin Kaepernick and Russell Wilson. I played in games. I did all this stuff, but I was his backup.
Yeah.
Um, so I had the opportunity to, A, be cocky, arrogant, conceited, and upset about it, because that's what my life has consisted of getting to a point where I feel like I'm accomplished, and then I lose myself. All right. And then I get knocked down. God will knock me down again. And I have to start this over again. So I believe in 2020, I was being tested. Okay. You've accomplished all this, but you're the backup. Okay. So do I sit here and help Brandon? Do I encourage Brandon? Do I hate on Brandon?
Hmm.
Do I complain? or what kind of example am I going to be for Brandon and the rest of the team? Keep in mind, in 2020, I was 30 years old. Everyone else was 24,
Yeah.
25, 26. So there's an age gap too. Some
Mm.
of these guys had never played professional sports. The XFL was their first opportunity post college. So I'm in Seattle, and once again, that the team I played for was the Seattle Dragons. So not only that, I'm back in Seattle where
Yeah,
everybody loves me. I was a Seahawk.
yeah.
I got a Super Bowl ring with this city, this
Yeah.
state of Washington. We're playing in the same stadium that I already played
Ah,
in.
damn. Yeah.
So I took that moments and I said, you know what? I'm going to start a Bible study class for some of these players. I'm
Mm.
going to talk about financial literacy and what the NFL checks really look like and what you're really taking home and what you're not. Um, I'm going to show them what hard work looks like. I'm going to get up and make sure I'm in the weight room at 5 a.m. every morning and then go to practice. And then when practice is over, I'm going to work out again, maybe, or take care of my body. So I'm going to take this opportunity to show and help and encourage other people.
Yeah.
Now, keep this in mind. I never started at quarterback in the NFL, ever. I didn't start in front of Russell. I didn't start in front of Kaepernick. I didn't start in front of Matt Ryan. I played in the NFL.
Right.
I was on the teams. I switched positions. I ran down on kickoff. I have punt returns. I have receiving yards. But quarterback was what my dream always was. So, with all that being said, God was testing me to see what type of man or person that I would be. And I did the best I could in all those categories.
Yeah.
Um, with that being said, Brandon Silver he ended up getting benched, and then enters BJ Daniels. So I go in after halftime and I ball out and have a great game. Now we end up losing, but we were already losing by 20 points before I even got in.
Yeah.
But the very next week, BJ Daniels is starting professionally at quarterback. So dream is coming. My dream at the age of 30 is becoming a reality. All right. Um, very next week, COVID. The whole league shuts.
Oh.
The whole league shuts down. And what was so cool about it is I got the opportunity to open a book and close it the right way.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is my dreams and goals and aspirations were to go to the NFL, sure, but it was really to start as a
Yeah.
professional quarterback. And I got to do that. Now, one thing selfishly that our flesh always seems to kind of want is more, more,
Yep.
more, and more. If you make the team, you want to play on the team. Start. If you start, you will want to throw a touchdown. If you throw a touchdown, you want to break records.
Yeah.
If you break records, you want to win championship. It
Yeah.
just you get it this year, you got to do it next year.
Yep.
So for me, it was like I only had one opportunity to ever start, and little did I know that's all I needed.
Yeah.
So that encouraged me so much more to continue to move forward and help people. And that's when things kind of shifted for me. So 2020 was a lot for a lot of people, but it definitely was a reflection of self growth into where I am now, as I went from the XFL 2020 to being the head coach of a high school that I went to. So I'm washing uniforms at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night, while everybody else is out having fun and partying. I'm trying to make sure these stains come out of these uniforms, so we can wear them again next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from there, so just serving people and giving. From that, the head coach here, his name is Jeff Scott. Um, he hired me here to be a quarterback analyst. Um, from there, now I'm actually raising money for USF. So I'm the assistant director of community and alumni engagement. So that big title means I raise money for USF athletics. We're building a $25 million stadium now, so I'm raising money for that. Community engagement, getting our student athletes out in the community with jobs, internships, networking, and things like that. And then the last part, the alumni engagement part, is I'm
Yeah.
over our alumni athletic association. So making sure guys still come back, men and women, all sports, come back, still feel comfortable, not have that bitter taste in their mouth about a coach, and just understands that they love the university.
Yeah.
So just trying to serve and give and help as much as I can.
I love it, man. I love it. So how I'm curious too is do a lot of the, I say a lot, do any, I guess really, uh like the players there now reach out to you kind of like as like a side resource of whether it just be picking your brain or like a conversation or like I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z or like, hey, I need to talk to coach and like how do I have this conversation? Because I want to go in there and be like F you and like I know that's
Yeah,
not appropriate, right? Like, can you help me like
yeah,
language this out?
yeah.
Because I feel like that's like I feel like that's like you have like a ton of value to be able to like and I don't know, just like get the vibe too. It's like that's what like juices you up a little bit too in terms of like just helping. I don't know, I call it mentoring, right? Like essentially just like guiding people, being the tour guide for them in their 2, 3, 4 years of like why they're there at USF.
Man, like literally on the other side, I mean, of my office, I have two chairs, and I'm also a therapist.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think, all of what we've experienced in college. They're like that on steroids. I mean,
Yeah.
it's times 10. I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't, you talk about social media and the fact that a kid is not just nervous to play well and nervous because he's on TV. He doesn't want to become the next meme. Like that doesn't even make sense to me.
Right.
Uh, like there's a lot of things these athletes are going through, and the cool part about me being back here is my frame of reference is I can point and say that's where my girlfriend broke up. That's where a coach yelled at me. This is where I can. I'm in the same building. I'm in the
Yeah.
same locker room. I'm in the same everything that this university has provided for me. I'm in the same. I know the same people. Some of our athletic staff, same our head trainers, like so I have equity in this university to the point where, um, it's not like I'm starting a new job at, West Virginia. If I go to West Virginia, they're not going to
Right.
respect me or as much as they do here.
Totally.
Um,
Totally. Yeah. So, I guess two parts is what do you see as athletes today's like biggest hurdle, i.e., kind of like what is like the primary thing they come to you about like just picking your brain and like getting guidance on? Um, yeah, what do you feel like that's the where you feel like that's the or I guess like what's the gap that most of the athletes are struggling like with today?
yeah. I mean, you still got the same issues. You still got girlfriend problems. You still have, performance issues. You still have coaches relationship issues, communicating.
Yeah,
Taking ownership. You still have all those issues, but one thing that's really interesting today is NIL. Name,
yeah,
image, and likeness. A lot of these kids see all these huge numbers that some of these athletes are making, and that's some. That's not all. On top of that, a lot of these kids don't know how to market themselves.
right.
So how is it that you want NIL money and you uh, want to, you want to represent these companies or vice versa, but you're not presenting yourself in a way that will allow them to even build a relationship with you. So it's quite interesting. Because you have and then the dynamic of you have a freshman that's coming in, you have someone who's already started. Do you give the starter more money or do you give the freshman that hasn't proved himself yet? Like
Right.
there's a balance that's real weird that I think needs to be regulated
Yeah.
in ways. And at the same time, I've been totally against you got I love the NIL part. I just think there needs to be rules
Right,
to
right,
it.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
But then when you pair NIL with no rules with the transfer portal, I mean, at this point, kids can be free agents every single year
Right.
and just go after money. So when
Yeah.
do you get your education? When do you because you can try to get all this money, but without some sort of education, that money's going to run out because you don't have the education. you know?
It's literally, yeah. I mean, I always say my big thing is like you have to be the person first. I always say like my big like I guess saying like if I had to sum it up into like if I'm like presenting myself to a coach and like what do you do? I'm like, oh, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. Right. And so
Mhm.
it's like a lot of times first thing I do, like going in with a team, I'm like, 60 seconds, write down everything that you want, right? And, it's like, and then I'm like, crumble that piece of paper up and throw it on the floor because like you're not going to get that unless you become the person, i.e., like,
Absolutely.
you know, you don't you don't get the $1 million then become a millionaire. That's how you
Right.
wind up broke, right?
Right.
Like you live as if a millionaire would live. You embody that person first. If you want to get to the league, like, or it's even, I used to have like a strength and conditioning sports performance facility, and like these middle schoolers like I want to go play basketball at Duke and then I want to go to the NBA, and it's like pulling teeth to work out at 6 a.m. I'm like, what the fuck you think you're gonna do at Duke, right? Like, or
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? And they're like, oh, like, well, when I have to work out at 6 a.m., I'll start doing it. I'm like, dude, that's not the way the world works. That's not how
Absolutely.
you attract things to you, is that's how you just create a wider and wider gap. um
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm curious as well with how they present themselves. Kind of a hot topic for me, and just conversations over the last couple weeks has been like, I call it smart social media management, right? And I
Mhm.
think it's probably well, I don't know, it's probably 50-50. But at first I was going to say is I wonder if it's tougher with male athletes versus female athletes, and just don't post stupid shit. Like, don't be an
Yeah.
idiot, right? Like,
I mean, that's it, basically.
uh, and then it was because I read a crazy stat. It was like 49% of hiring managers have not hired somebody strictly based off of social media. So it's like essentially
Mhm.
half of managers out there across the country have literally discounted candidates because of like all they have to do is go on Instagram or Facebook. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
curious, is that part of your conversations with them too? Like, don't be an idiot.
It is. But it's interesting now. Like these kids will post one picture, have like this whole consistent, posting gallery to show who they really are,
Yeah,
or or they'll cover their face, or they'll be standing in front of a car. They'll post late night videos and they love jumping on live. Like there's a lot of things that don't need to be presented, to the world. Because truthfully, I don't think they're at the age quite yet to fully understand that they are the business.
yeah,
And once they finally get that, it may or may not be too. So I'm really trying to educate them on that. Even for myself, I'm not against your youth, and I'm not against growing up and being who you want to be and finding yourself.
yeah,
But I too have had, bunch of double earrings in my ear, blonde hair, a mohawk. I mean, I've had all that stuff, a lot of facial hair, no facial hair, like, so it's all a part of it of growing. But at the same time, what you said, what I thought was very important, the core of just who you are should always show and shine. I think that's where the value is. But I think trying to get that out there with these student athletes is what's really important. Because one of the things I said in an NIL meeting I had, we keep talking about name, image, and likeness. Okay, cool. What about what a young person's passion is? What do they truly care about?
right.
That's going to make them more money forever.
Yeah,
Right now you can pay me because I'm a USF quarterback. Cool. I'll walk around and talk about how great your plunger is and how effective it is on toilets. Awesome. But what am I learning? You
right.
know, what if I really care about I want kids to be tutored because in my neighborhood it's not a very popular thing. Da, 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 da. Okay, now pair me with a donor who has a tutoring service or who has an educational company in some capacity. And that way I get to learn that business, what my passion is, and I get to take it to college, NFL or not, and go apply it and continue to make money forever. So that's not my name, that's not my image, and that's not my likeness. This is the passion that I care about. And I think that's where a lot of these student athletes are hung up on, oh yeah, I get a couple of Chick-fil-A sandwiches and a gift card to McDonald's. And this, no, that's so temporary. It's not even worth like what you're doing to get
Yeah.
these, you know?
Yeah. And I wonder too is like, I would wonder like the actual data. Obviously, like as we graduated college is I think it was a struggle back then too of like knowing who you are as a person post college because nobody wants to in college nobody wants to take a step back and answer that question, right? It's like I'll figure that out. Like what do you want to do when you grow up? I don't know, I'll figure that out like later, right? And then you have this
Yeah,
like oh shit moment of like your parents are like yeah, dude, like you're on your own now, right? And you're like, oh, dang, like I actually have to figure this out. And I wonder
yeah,
if that's more of a struggle now, because it's always been a struggle, right? Like I think even like as we were coming through, but I would be curious to see, and maybe you, I mean, I'm curious of your opinion as well if it's more of an issue today because of all the social media, because of all like shiny object syndrome, right? It's like, well, I'll just take any of these opportunities that I can, but I'll never actually take a step back of like, it's like I tell people all the time. It's like if you think you want to be a nurse, like go shadow somebody for 2 weeks, like for free, like literally just like,
right.
and if you don't know somebody, like I guarantee you probably know somebody in your Rolodex that knows somebody that can get you like your foot in the door. You think you want to be a vet, like go hang around a veterinary clinic for
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 weeks and actually see if it is something that you want to do. And I think people just get this like first of like, yeah, like I'm going to do that with a career. And I see it, people that go to like med school, people that become lawyers and spend all that time, money, and
Mm.
like years in their life, and then they get out and they're just like they feel trapped because they're like, well, I spent all the money and time on it. Now I just feel like I gotta now I have to do it. I'm like telling so many people, I'm like, try things out now. So I'm curious, like, do you see a difference more or less kind of the same of like that hurdle and that struggle to get people to try things out, while they're in college, while they're in that 18 to 22 range?
Yeah, I mean, these student athletes here, I think they work really hard on the football field, swimming and all that, the mats, but I don't think that they apply that same stuff to their life,
Yeah.
and I think once practice is over, once the requirements of study hall is over, once the game is over, once you get back after a 3 o'clock, in the morning flight because you went, and played across the country, you know, taking that time to invest in yourself. And I
Yeah.
don't think that I think our universities as a whole, in the country could invest in our student athletes a little differently. Like I said, the name, image, and likeness thing, yeah, we heard about throwing money at these athletes, but are we teaching them, life skills? And then we deal with the microwavable world that we live in. People think everything, it's not what it is. I
Right.
mean, myself personally, um, the jobs I can think of I've worked at the YMCA in college. Um, I also, was a high school head coach. I was an analyst for USF football. I'm raising money right now for athletics and over the Alumni Association. But my degree is in criminology.
Oh, wow.
I had the idea of, okay, me and my mom growing up, we used to watch CSI, Law and Order. Law Abiding Citizen is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I'm taking interest into something and pursuing a degree in it, not really understanding or knowing I want to be a police officer. That's not what I want to do, so, and, you know, I want to be the guy wearing a suit and FBI and, undercover. And lo and behold, I get to, when I broke my ankle, I had the opportunity to kind of shadow and talk to some people in that world. And it was like, BJ, you would be a terrible undercover agent. I was like, what? I said, I just went 4 years of college, okay, of trying to accumulate this degree, and you're going to tell me this today?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They were like, well, yeah, because you played football. You would ruin every mission that we ever would have, and you would
Yeah.
jeopardize many lives because we could Google. No one ever told me that.
Yeah.
So I spent 4 years of college not to be a police officer, but to go be an FBI agent or whatnot. But I can't even accumulate that because of no one told me.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one, no one educated me. So
And I
uh,
think that's two pieces I want to touch on. I think that's a huge gap in today's, especially like definitely college athletics world. I think just in society in general is like very few, I won't say nobody, but like very few people like want to be brutally honest, like with
Hmm.
kids or just people in general. And it's
Yeah,
funny is like just got back from being around a team and like how was this weekend? Or like, did you guys resonate with like what we were talking about? I was like, yeah. I was like, well, why? And they're like, you have the ability to be brutally honest with us, but not like make us feel like bad human beings, right? And I
yeah,
think that that's the balance of people have is like, again, people think in absolutes of like, well, if I'm honest to you, what I mean? I'm like, no, like you're actually doing them a service to tell them
absolutely.
how it is. And so I think a lot of people, a lot of coaches too, just in general, are scared to look at them and just, give them the reality of the situation of like the probability of that is almost zero, or you're not gonna be a good police officer, and here's X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, like now I can take a step back and like actually decide maybe like what is it that I actually want to do.
Right.
Um, but yeah, the other side of that too is, or the other thing I wanted to like touch on as well is it's interesting because I think like the most cliche thing in sports world is like most coaches are like, we want to build better young men and women, right? Like that's like the motto of like, but then
Yeah,
it's like, okay, but
but
what,
they're worried about their job too.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, where are you investing in that? And I don't mean because like I mean, I'm pretty sure like almost every university has like sports psych. Great. Like you have all these tools and resources. Yes, but like you as a coach didn't necessarily do anything per se to like, okay, do you guys need anything else? Okay, what is it that you need? Can we bring anybody else in? Is there a different resource that you have? It's like getting the feedback of like, okay, oh yeah, we don't have that here. Or maybe you do and they just don't know, right? Like maybe they're like, I don't know how to eat. And it's like, well, we have a dietitian. They're like, really? I didn't even know. Like I knew we had like a cafeteria, but I didn't know we could talk to a dietitian about things. Right. And so it's like, I think educating them and making sure that they have the resources they need so that you can build the identity. Because to me, it's like if you fix the person, you fix the athlete, right? Like
Yeah.
if they look in the mirror and see more value in themselves, well, shit, they're going to go out on the field and perform better naturally, right?
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like I think that that's meeting them where they're at and asking them like what they actually need without like spoiling them fucking rotten.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, man, what I really have a lot of respect for Inky Johnson. And I think,
Yeah,
when he goes and speaks, he's allowed to do that. God has given him that platform because of what he's been through. And every student athlete that looks at him can be like, man, that could be me. That's what the other side of this could look like. And I think so proud for him, as well, because he's sharing his story. And I've learned that with being brutally honest and being just real, it allows you to be better on the back
yeah,
end, to grow from it or to tweak things or change things. And, I'm sure the very first time he went and spoke about his situation and his story, it's nowhere near the power that it holds now.
right, yeah,
So I'm sure he's grown and gotten better and better and more dynamic and speaking to more and more and bigger crowds and having a bigger impact. And I think that's important. Also because I've also been around coaches who Inky Johnson's relatable, but then when a coach brings in one of their favorite speakers, that probably is not the guy these kids want to hear. That's
yeah,
probably not who these kids are going to relate to. Um, and at the same time, we enjoy those experiences about certain people because we can, like you said, meet them where they're at on their level. So if I'm a 40 or 50, 60-year-old coach, I'm going to bring my favorite speaker because he's relevant to me
yeah.
at the time, not to the student athletes I'm serving.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I think, well, it's vulnerability is such like an interesting concept too, because it's like everyone's big fear because they feel like their status is going to be lowered, but like in like
Yeah.
90%, 99% of the scenarios, it actually raises your status because people now feel more connected to you and want to open up to you,
Yeah.
and the relationship's closer, right? It's
Oh
like
yeah.
anytime I've ever gone in with a team, it's like I've seen this kind of in the like my world, my industry is most people, whatever, in like that space is they come in and they tell a team or an athlete like how awesome they are. They're like, look how many gold medals I've won, right? I've worked with this national champion and this football player and da da da. And like, if I'm talking to you as as a high level quarterback, you're looking at me like I really don't give a shit, right? Like that doesn't resonate with me at all, right? Or if I go in and I'm like, man, I was a college athlete too, and they're like, bro, that was 15 years ago. Like,
Yeah, oh
walk a
yeah.
day in my shoes, right? Like they
I
don't
mean,
care.
I'm 34, and these kids like barely even know anything about my college career here. And I'm like, I'm only like 10 years older than you. You guys got like 7 years of college because of COVID and medical years, and like,
Yeah.
what? Like, come on. So, when I hear coaches talk about, their two-time All-American that they used to coach, like, dude, I don't even know those people's names. Like,
Yeah.
not relevant. Is it Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady? Which one?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and
you
I
know,
think yeah, again, it kind of goes back to like meeting them where they're at too. And so it's like with you said, and I think that's exactly the perfect example, like is your book. And so it's essentially of like when I go in, it's like I tell the backstory. I'm like, this is why I sucked, and this is why I was miserable, and this is why I was lost, and this is why I was confused, and this is why I was depressed in
yes,
college. And they're like, oh, you were depressed too? Because like that was me last week, right? And they're like, now
absolutely.
it becomes a conversation versus like I'm gonna help you win gold medals. They're like, I don't want to be stressed. Like, that's really what I want.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, two questions left. One, what do you feel like today if you had to answer? Um, like what's your major calling today in the spot that you're in
Um,
now?
Man, I think I had a dream of making it to the NFL, which is awesome. Um, I think growing up in a dorm room, you could say that that probably it's not going to happen, but it did. So right now, I'm just trying to make sure I'm not scared or terrified of
Mhm.
my next goal. Um, so I've already accomplished something that a lot of people haven't, but I also want to affect change in the world. I don't want to
Yeah,
just help my community of Tallahassee. I don't want to just help Tampa. I want to be on a platform where not only can I speak to what I've experienced and gone through, but I can actually help people.
yeah,
So I don't want it to be about me at all. It's funny. I listen to a lot of different podcasts and a lot of people that teachers and things like that. But I got a message yesterday, and when I say a message, I got a word. This student athlete. What people don't realize is they feed me too.
yeah, 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 totally.
So this defensive lineman walks in my office and I'm busy doing work, looking at the computer, and I'm barely even looking up because I don't want to talk to him right now. I'm just not in the mood. As much as I say my door is always open, I wasn't in the mood.
Yeah,
And he walked in and he said something that was, we were just talking, and he said something that was really powerful. And it's something that I kind of have always moved, but I don't think that I'm speaking it into fruition as much as I am now. And he said he wrote this down on a blue sticky note. So that's a blue sticky note right there.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And it says, change what I have done to what God had planned or allowed me to do.
yeah. Mm,
So change what I have done to what God has planned or allowed me to do. So I was always, I was growing into this sense of I did this, I did that, I did, well, here's the deal. And that this goes for relationships that fail. What you think about what I did this and I did that and I can't because I was, and then even in sports, even in business, you know, if you really go down to the root of it, it wasn't yours anyway.
hmm
There are things that you experienced and had to go through to even get to where you are. So if we want to talk about relationships, I can't tell you I'm providing for this woman. Well, where did I get it from? Where did it start?
Right,
I can't tell you that, man, my university doesn't love or respect me as much as I want them to. Okay, well, what did you pour in and where did that come from? How did you even get to college?
right.
I can't sit up here as a 34-year-old man and say, I want all these accolades. I want all this. I want the corner office. I want the biggest salary. Well, timeout. When you were in high school and nobody wanted you, South Florida took a chance on you. That's how you even got here.
Yeah,
Okay, then you were also protected and you survived some things and went through some things and had some success. Okay, and I kept you from messing up yourself.
right, right, yeah, yeah,
Okay, so Now you're back. Be appreciative of the moment and understand where that's coming from. It's not ever about you, ever. It's always about the plan that's placed on your heart. Um, it's your job, our job, to use that and put in flourishing. So serving people, helping people, to answer your question, um, is exactly the world I want to live in. And the coolest part about being in that world is, like the student athlete that sat on the other side of this computer, he gave me something,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
How I guess my follow-up to that too is I'm curious is I guess like faith, God's plan, him guiding you and steering you and writing certain things on your heart and mind, like how has that always been like a central, like a guiding factor, a North Star for you, so to speak? Or is that more of like something you found later in life? Yeah, I'm just kind of curious of like how long that's been, I guess the center for you is probably a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the church. My mom is a deaconess. My dad's a deacon. I literally was a kid that went to church every weekend. I do think I have a calling on my life. I think that things have not worked out for me in certain areas because I've deviated from the plan.
Yeah.
I tell kids all the time, I want you to think about the tallest building, the most beautiful skyscraper in the middle of downtown New York. New York, one of the biggest cities in the world. And you have all these floors. And for me, I've gotten to so many different levels of this skyscraper, the first floor, third floor, fifth floor, the 100th floor. And I think that every time I'm on this next floor that I'm successful.
Yeah.
And when I get beside myself, I don't treat people right, I get a little arrogant, self-centered. God has a way of knocking me back down to the first floor. Now, sometimes, I'll be on the 100th floor and I'll go down to 99,
Right, right.
go to 98, go back up to 100. But there have been integral moments of my life where I've been in the basement.
Yeah.
And I say that metaphorically and realistically. Like I said, the basement of a high school, washing uniforms as roaches crawl across the floor after I met Obama. It wasn't like I climbed this ladder and it was washing uniforms and then I met Obama. It was Obama, this,
Yeah.
so like in order for me to my platform to continue to grow to where I thought it was, or whatever God's plan is to even go to a higher floor, serving people and using my experiences is that platform.
Yeah.
And no matter, you asked me to be on this and opportunity, but I can't tell people no. I don't know who can hear this. I don't know
Yeah.
where people are going to hear, but I have to be able to operate in this realm and not be too big, arrogant, cocky, or conceited in any way about anything that I've ever done, anyone that I've ever met or been affiliated with, because it's just a part of the plan. That's not
Yeah.
the goal. It's a part of where I'm going, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. Actually, I got chills from because I think one of the things that like I super resonate with too is like, when you're talking about like you just never know what like certain doors or opportunities can open up to. And I think that again, it's like one of the things I at least I like to like pride myself on as well. It's like no matter what school, what university, what team, what group of like athletes that is like
Yeah.
I think some people get caught up of like only wanting to be around like the big names, the superstars. And
Mhm.
it's like I always say it's like I would do anything for every like if you want to grow, like I will do anything for you. Like I will have your back. Like I do not look at like who ranks first versus last like on the team. That is completely irrelevant to me. If you're ready to
Yeah.
grow, then knock on my door, right? Like let's do this. Like I will again, shirt off my back. Haha. Um um like moving forward. So yeah, I totally like resonate with that because I think a lot of people just in general, not like necessarily like in my world, but it's like it's a status thing, right? Like they only want to be around those. They only want to get on those podcasts and it's like dude, unless you get 10 million downloads, like I'm not on it, right? Like unless you're Joe
Yeah.
Rogan, like I'm not getting on it type thing. So yeah, I totally resonate with that. Okay,
Kids
that's
that you're
actually
dealing with, the kids you're dealing with, they're going to remember you for the rest of their life.
Do you
I
think
get that.
so? I don't know. Do you think so?
Absolutely.
So that's, man, I'm glad you brought this up because actually we could go back and forth on this maybe for a second. Maybe you'll change my perspective. I've always thought of it as they think of it, and it doesn't hurt my feelings, but I always
Mm,
think of it as like they view it as a very transactional relationship, i.e., it's
absolutely.
like I
It
got what I
is.
want, like thank you, and then like move along. And so it's like, I don't know. Like I guess I don't know.
I'll give you a perfect example. You ready? I'll quiz
Okay.
you. You
Yeah, yeah,
ready?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Who is your favorite coach?
Probably Coach Knutson, probably the one that had the most
Why?
impact on me. Um, because he cared the most. He used to literally, yeah. Oh shit, damn. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When I was in eighth grade, I was wrestling for the
Yeah.
varsity team, and he used to come to my house at 5 o'clock in the morning and pick me up to go take me to a workout.
There we
Yeah, that's wild. Mm.
Does that answer your question.
And we still
Why?
talk to this day. That's funny. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
He's
why.
he's
It wasn't
actually now that I think about it, it's probably the only coach I talk to this day.
yeah, it wasn't transactional.
Interesting. Hmm. I'm on my own podcast now.
But that's truly how I feel too. I mean, the coach I love the most is one that was probably the hardest on me and cared about me the most.
Yeah,
It wasn't the amount of success we had together. It wasn't the level that school, high school, college, whatever. It was that coach that I felt like cared about me in a way where he would make me grow.
yeah,
There's a lot of coaches that cared, but there's a few, here and there that stick out, you know.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Oh, I may, all right, you made my day. All right. I love it. I love it. All right, that's a good segue. Last question. So we'll wrap things up. My ending question for everybody is if you're in a stadium of 100,000 people and you can only leave them with one message, what would it be?
Very cliche, but keep fighting,
Okay.
fight and know who you're fighting. That's what I would say.
Ooh,
And I
ooh,
say that because, you know, I uh everyone has their own traumas and things that they're going through and experiencing. You wake up in the morning expecting to have a good day, and then something gets thrown on your plate.
right.
Okay, so number one, know who you're fighting. All right. So what I mean by that is there are things that are going to be sent your way or people to make you deviate from what God's plan is, from what your goals are. And you, am I fighting this person or am I fighting the devil or the demon that's within them?
Yeah,
Okay. To keep me from what it is that I'm called or I'm supposed to be doing. You're helping those young men, and there will be a coach or an employee, employer, or someone that is possibly intimidated by you and the fact that these kids resonate with you. There will be somebody there that will throw a monkey wrench in somewhere about paperwork or something like this. But those are things that are being sent to you to deviate you from your plan. And if you recognize, and it's the spirit within them that I'm fighting. So if I don't have to fight the person, I'm not worried about you. But
yeah,
if it's the spirit that I recognize, I'm not going to let you win.
yeah,
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to respond to you because I'm not fighting you. I know who I'm fighting. It's the devil trying to deviate me from what it is I'm called to do. You are called to help those young men. At the end of the day, whatever comes your way, I'm not going to fight that.
yeah,
I'm good. Have a good one. I'll see you later. And then in fighting is this. Um, I heard, this preacher say this as well. Like, um, one, it's easy to say never give up.
yeah,
Okay. But when we talk about keep fighting, I'm right-handed and I got a big right hand with a big fist, and I will swing this haymaker as hard and as fast as I can if I'm fighting. But I've also learned when I'm need to continue to fight is how to fight. Okay. So I don't always have to be on the offensive. I can also duck or slip some things or back up or get out of the way, or protect myself. That's also a part of fighting.
Mm,
And I think that's really important for people today. One, know who you're fighting and knowing how to fight, so keep fighting. Those are the things I definitely would say.
I love that. I actually love. I've never thought about it from that angle because I think most people think when they think fight it, they think just aggressive attack
Yeah.
go versus there is
hmm
an element of defense, so to speak. Um,
It's the thing that's changed my life in so many different ways. What happens when you throw that haymaker? You hit the person that can handle it. You
yeah,
hit the person that can take a punch.
yeah,
Okay, and you just threw your best punch.
yeah,
Okay. Now here they come on the return.
yeah,
Is that gonna knock you off the trail and what you're supposed to be doing? Or are you gonna learn, okay, well, all right, I threw my haymaker. And that's the thing about being like a one hit wonder. I mean, if
mm-hmm,
that's all you got, you're not gonna win many fights, you
yeah,
know. So, you gotta be able, like I told you with the coach, that ask me questions every meeting, every day. I'm a rookie in the NFL. It's not a whole bunch of information I even know to begin with. There's other guys in the room. I'm like, ask them questions. They've been here for 4 or 5 years,
right,
but my haymaker could have, my haymaker could have been frustration. My haymaker could have been, I don't do what I'm supposed to do. So I hit him up with a changeup. Okay. Instead of anger and frustration, what he's probably used to because he's been a coach for 20 years. Okay. I'm gonna beat him at his own game. I'm gonna duck this. And I'm like, hey, well, the answer to this is the defensive end is gonna go up the field and we got to make sure we protect the quarterback. Now I just hit you with a jab.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's good. I love that analogy. Yeah, that's
no,
good. I love it. I love it. Well, cool, man. I appreciate you jumping on. This has been awesome. And yeah, my whole goal here is I just always think like stories are what move people. And I feel like the more stories that like I can get out there is you never know, kind of like what we talked about before, is like who resonates with what story. And that's kind of like the purpose and the power of the podcast. So yeah, man, I
absolutely.
appreciate you, yeah, being vulnerable and jumping on and sharing the knowledge, the wisdoms, and the stories.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Until next time, everybody. Peace.